My wife, Candy, believed money could solve any problem. On our wedding day, she let her assistant storm up to me and call me a homewrecker. When I was attacked all over the internet, she bought off my pain for $1 million. When that same assistant accidentally shattered an heirloom from my late father, she bought my tears for $3 million. It continued until he framed me for stealing his watch, threatening to send me to prison. Candy was completely unfazed. "You're always in his face, so of course he's annoyed with you," she said. "It might be good for you to spend some time in jail, give him a little space. So tell me, what's the price for your wounded heart?" $1 billion, I said, my eyes red as I named the astronomical sum. She only hesitated for a moment. Then, a smile spread across her face. "Done," she agreed. I watched in stunned silence as she walked away with her assistant. I covered my face, pretending to be devastated, but underneath my hands, I couldn't suppress a laugh. She finally took the bait. Candy took Dylan's hand and left without a single glance back. I was left standing there, the picture of a heartbroken husband. Even house staff seemed to pity me. They were either shaking their heads at what a pushover I was, or lamenting that a real husband had less appeal than a mere assistant. With my eyes still red, I went into our bedroom and slammed the door. Finally, I could let out a real laugh. $1 billion for a 6-month prison sentence? Oh, Candy, you finally fell for it. All the humiliation I'd endured was worth it. All those times I'd asked her if she even saw me as her husband while she wrote checks to silence my pain. No, I shouldn't say it was all an act. In the beginning, I really did throw the money right back in her face. I was stubborn back then, insisting that you couldn't buy love. I wanted my Candy, the girl who followed me around since we were kids, the one who sweetly called me her Sonny. But I eventually realized that when a person changes, they're gone for good. Since I couldn't get her back, I decided to get a massive payout instead. It would be compensation for our 20 years together. When Candy's car pulled up downstairs to take me to turn myself in, I put on a heartbroken expression and obediently got inside. I played my part until the GPS rerouted and the car stopped in front of a remote warehouse in upstate New York. I suddenly realized something was wrong. The driver, he wasn't one of Candy's usual guys. Just as I was about to bolt, a cloth was pressed over my mouth and nose from behind. When I opened my eyes again, I was tied to a chair. A man who looked vaguely familiar stood before me. A phone was pressed against my ear, and I spoke, my voice trembling. "Candy, Sonny, is that really you?" For a second, Candy's voice was pure panic. The man put the phone back to his own ear. "You heard her. $1 billion by noon. For every 10 minutes you're late, I cut off a finger. You dare kidnap my husband?" Candy's voice was tight with restrained fury. "Do you have any idea who works for Campbell Security?" The man hesitated. "If you want to live, you'll release him now and wait for the police. Do that, and I might consider showing you some mercy down the line." "No," another man's voice cut in. My heart ceased. It was Dylan, Candy's assistant. "Candy, don't call the police. That's my brother." Candy went silent. "My brother never had a chance to go to school," Dylan pleaded. "He worked his whole life to put me through college. Without him, I'd be nothing. I never would have met you, Candy. He's just at a rough patch. He was desperate. If you call the cops on him, you might as well have me arrested too. Don't be ridiculous." Hearing the change in Candy's tone, I knew her heart was melting for him. No one knew the subtle shifts in her voice better than I did. My shoulders slumped as I leaned back against the chair. Just as I expected, she caved. "I won't call the police, and Campbell Security won't come after you. You'll get your $1 billion. But you have to guarantee his safety." The man, Leo, smirked. "Money arrives, and we're all friends here." For the next 3 hours, sitting in that chair, I wasn't the least bit nervous. $1 billion was nothing Candy couldn't handle. My only worry was whether she would deduct this ransom from my eventual payout. If she tried to tell me that my $1 billion settlement was used for my own ransom, I would lose my mind. With 2 hours still to go before the noon deadline, Candy had the money ready. "We have a deal. The money arrives, you let him go. Otherwise, Campbell Security will make your life a living hell," Candy warned. Leo just sneered. "Of course. I want money. A murder charge doesn't do me any good. Okay, I'm sending the wire now." "Candy." It was Dylan's voice again. That limited edition supercar I wanted just went on sale. It's the only one in the world. If we don't buy it right now, someone else will. Once again, Candy fell silent. I started to get anxious. Candy, she paused for a beat before speaking. Sonny, you'll have to wait a little longer. This car is the final piece from his favorite designer before he retired. It costs exactly $1 billion, and he's wanted it for ages. But I'm being held hostage. That's enough. Can't you wait for one more hour? Candy's voice was sharp with impatience. He has waited 3 years for this car. Can you stop being so selfish for once? I looked at the clock on the wall, the hands nearing 11, and clenched my jaw. Candy then addressed the kidnapper. Mr. Hayes, for this final hour, I expect you to honor your promise and not lay a hand on him. Of course, Leo replied, as long as you can get another $1 billion before noon. Of course, she said. And just like that, she hung up. My calm demeanor was starting to crack with a little bit of real tension. As the clock hands crept toward 12, I felt my own deadline approaching. No, I shook my head. $1 billion wasn't a problem for Candy. It was just a matter of reallocating funds. All it took was a few signatures. With that thought, my tense muscles began to relax. But then, with only 3 minutes left until noon, the panic returned. The phone hadn't rung. No wire transfer had come through. Leo was getting impatient too. Looking at his cold expression, I forced a placating smile. She'll definitely get it, don't worry, I said. We've known each other since we were 5. 20 years of history. She wouldn't just leave you hanging. Sonny Miller. He spoke, his voice ice. I'm at the end of my rope. If I don't get that money today, I'm taking you with me. I swallowed hard. No, she'll pay, she will. A breaking news story flashed across the TV, mounted on the wall. The moment I saw the image, my heart sank into a pit. The headline read, Design Legends Farewell Masterpiece, snapped up on release day. The subheadline, Mysterious Billionaire Buys CAR for Beloved Partner. It was a live feed. Dylan was sitting in the driver's seat of the stunning supercar, looking for all the world like an international celebrity. And there was Candy in the passenger seat, smiling and waving to the cameras right alongside him. The moment created a series of stunning photos that immediately went viral. A moment later, Leo saw the trending topic lighting up his phone. The clock struck 12. I swallowed hard. Your brother has $1 billion car now, so, in a way, you have it too. Don't give me that crap. His hand clamped around my throat. He glared at me. My brother and I have struggled to get this far. I would never touch his money. Since the deadline has passed, Sonny Miller, you've left me no other choice. He yanked my hand and slammed it onto the table. Every nerve in my body went rigid. Wait, let me call her. He frowned. I begged him, my face a mask of desperation. She must have just forgotten. Let me call her. I swear she'll send the money right away. Not just $1 billion, maybe even 2. Leo paused for a moment. Then he smiled. I have a better idea. This time, Leo made a video call. The moment she saw me, Candy frowned. Just be patient. Dylan is taking this press event very seriously, so stop trying to make a scene. I'm not. A needle pricked my neck. My pupils contracted. The next second, a pair of pliers clamped down on my pinky fingernail and ripped it clean off. Sonny. Candy's eyes flew wide open. My body convulsed uncontrollably. God, why does it hurt so much? It shouldn't hurt this much, Sonny. MS. Campbell, Leo said, holding my bloody fingernail up to the camera. I injected him with a serum that magnifies pain by a factor of 10. Just pulling a nail is enough to make him experience agony beyond belief. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Candy's eyes were blazing. Miss Campbell, I told you. 10 minutes, 1 finger. It's past noon. No, please don't. My hand was forced flat against the table. He was about to take my first finger. Candy finally broke. I'll send it now. Candy, don't do it. It was Dylan again. On the screen, he looked at my hand with a shocked expression and frowned. Now, you've gone too far. Dylan, Leo seemed at a loss for words. Dylan turned back to Candy, his face a mask of earnest pleading. Candy, you can't give him the money. Both Candy and I were stunned. No, Sonny can't take the pain, she said. It doesn't matter. Dylan grew frantic. Candy, I never thought my brother would go this far. If you pay him, he'll just do it again. This time it's Mr. Miller, and you're here to help. But what about next time? If he kidnaps someone else and gets caught? I'll lose my brother forever. Candy seemed to be considering it. So please, Candy, let me talk to him. He listens to me. If I can get him to see reason, you won't just be saving yourself. You'll be saving my brother and me too. Candy, don't listen to him. I screamed, half mad with pain. His brother is insane. No one can talk him down. He just wants to watch me suffer. That son of a bitch. Mr. Miller. Dylan's eyes instantly welled with tears. Candy pulled him close protectively. Are you insane? He's trying to save you. Is that how you speak to the person trying to rescue you? Just because your heart is twisted, don't assume everyone else's is too. Candy, Dylan cut me off. Mr. Miller, I'm going to go talk to my brother now. Don't worry, I won't let anything happen to you. Candy frowned at me through the screen. Dylan is doing everything he can to save you, and you slander him like this. How dare you? With that, she hung up. But just as I had predicted, Dylan had no intention of talking his brother down. In fact, it was the opposite. When Leo got off the phone with his brother, the look he gave me was even more vicious. My brother tells me you not only stole his girl, but you've been targeting him again and again, he snarled. I trembled, begging him to stop. But all I could do was watch as he closed the pliers around my finger. I'm at the end of my rope, and I'm ready to die, he said. But the good news is, I get to take a bastard like you with me. No, I was plunged into total despair. Just then, a call from Dylan's phone interrupted him. He answered, but the face on the screen wasn't Dylan's. It was Candy. Sonny, the moment she saw my condition, her eyes widened in horror. Candy had mobilized Campbell security. It didn't take them long to pinpoint the warehouse's location. The moment the doors burst open, she was standing there. Sonny, with what little strength I had left, I warned her, there's a bomb, stay back. The Campbell security team instinctively fell back, but she rushed forward. The timer on the bomb, strapped to my chest, showed less than 10 seconds. But the ropes binding me were tied in a dead knot. Don't be scared. I'll have this undone in a second. Don't be scared, she said, her own hands trembling. But she didn't back away. In that hazy moment, I thought I saw the Candy I used to love. The one who would have stood by my side through anything. Forget about me, Candy. Just go. No way. Come on, untie. Faster, she muttered, urging herself on. 5 seconds left. The dead knot finally loosened. My eyes lit up. Candy, hurry. Candy. At that critical moment, a figure appeared in the doorway. It was Dylan. I saw Candy's pupils contract. In a flash, she was on her feet, shouting, stay back. I panicked. Candy, he's safe over there. I'm almost free, just help me. Beep, beep. Boom. The warehouse shuddered. Candy had thrown herself over Dylan, shielding him with her body. Who told you to come in here? She screamed, furious. Dylan was stunned. I was worried about you. Wait, what's that? He suddenly pointed. Candy turned, and her body went rigid. I was on the floor. My leg was a bloody mess. My wrists were raw and bleeding where I had finally managed to tear myself free from the ropes. But I was a second too late. My left leg had taken the brunt of the blast. Candy gently covered Dylan's eyes with her hand. Don't look. You don't want to see this. My bloody hand dug into the dirt floor. I finally lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital bed, and Candy was sitting beside me. So, she said, what's the price to buy your wounded heart? I couldn't believe it. After everything I'd just been through, the first words out of her mouth were about another transaction. Sonny, this was my fault. Name your price. I'll give you anything to make it right. $10 billion, I said. She froze. Then she let out a small laugh. You're learning to make jokes at a time like this. You're the one who offered to compensate me. This time, I lost 20 years of our life together. $10 billion doesn't even begin to cover it. Sonny Miller. She looked at me as if I'd lost my mind. You're putting a price tag on our 20 years together? Are you insane? Oh, so you do remember it's been 20 years. Frankly, 10 billion feels low. She slammed her palm down on the bedside table. I met her gaze without flinching. I watched her chest rise and fall with her ragged breaths. Finally, she swallowed her anger. Leaning over me, she smiled a cold, sarcastic smile. Fine, you want compensation, you'll get it. She stood up and gave an order to her assistant. Give him $1. Yes, ma'am. And then she was gone. The assistant she left behind looked at me with open contempt. $1. It became the talk of the entire hospital floor. When the crisp bill was placed in my hand, I actually smiled. This will do. Candy returned to my hospital room a week later. She found the bed occupied by a stranger. Ms. Campbell, the nurse said, Mr. Miller was discharged days ago. You didn't know? Candy gave a cold laugh. So, he doesn't even bother to tell me he's leaving now. That night, she went back to our house. She opened the front door. The familiar figure she expected to see wasn't there. Instead, a single document sat on the dining table, a divorce agreement. What in the world is he playing at? Candy muttered, flipping it open in disbelief. The section on asset division contained only a single sentence. All claims and interests related to the marriage shall be fully and completely bought out by the wife for the sum of $1. The papers slipped from her hand and fluttered to the floor. Her first instinct was to call me. She discovered the call wouldn't go through. Her iMessages wouldn't deliver. Sonny, what are you doing? She whispered, her hand holding the phone trembling. It was true. She had used money to smooth over the hurts she'd caused me time and time again. But in her mind, that was just to placate me. Dylan was often impulsive and couldn't handle criticism, so she paid me to be more tolerant of him. It was compensation. It wasn't a buyout. Even if she had paid for my silence and forgiveness countless times, there was one thing that should never have a price. Their 20 years of history. How could he be so callous as to put a price tag on their love? And to use $1 single to humiliate her like this? She suddenly laughed. Playing this little game. It just means he's angry I didn't offer him enough, right? She took out her phone and promptly wired $100 million to my usual account. A few moments later, the transfer was rejected. The account, the notification read, had been closed. Candy stared at her phone, stunned. She tried my other bank accounts. All of them were closed. What kind of game is he playing now? She frowned. He was playing the disappearing act to make her worry, giving him more leverage when he finally decided to negotiate. She'd seen this tactic 1,000 times before. Ms. Campbell, should I dispatch a security team to find Mr. Miller? Her assistant asked. No, she said coldly. This little drama of his will end as soon as he realizes no one is playing along. He'll come back on his own. I'd like to see just how long he can keep up this act. Yes, Ms. Campbell. Wait, Candy said, a thought striking her. Any news on Leo Hayes? None, ma'am. Candy frowned. That was strange. After the explosion, Leo Hayes had vanished. No sign of him, no body. Even Dylan claimed he had no idea where his brother had gone. What was really going on? She shook her head. It didn't matter. She would just wait for Sonny to come back. After her assistant left, she lay down on the vast, empty bed. She felt a hollow ache in her chest. It had been a long time since she'd slept in this bed. The comforter didn't even smell like him anymore. She rolled over, and her eyes fell on a stack of papers on the nightstand. She picked them up. A psychological evaluation? She opened it to the first page. Diagnosis: post-traumatic stress disorder. The patient reports being injected with a pain-amplifying agent, having fingernails removed with pliers, and suffering digital fractures. When asked about the rescue attempt, the patient became nonverbal, suggesting a significant traumatic event occurred during this period. Hypnotherapy sessions revealed a Mr. Hayes actively encouraged the kidnapper to employ increasingly brutal methods of torture against the patient. A subsequent memory block is believed to be the core of the trauma and will require further therapy to access. The current treatment plan involves medication to stabilize his condition and regular counseling sessions. The report slipped from her fingers onto the nightstand. Candy's breath hitched. He's been seeing a therapist? The very next moment, she was speeding toward Dylan's mansion in Beverly Hills. Dylan was alone. The moment he saw her, he threw his arms around her. Candy, did you know I couldn't sleep? Is that why you came? I'm falling apart. Every time I close my eyes, all I can see is Mr. Miller tied to that chair. I feel so useless. I couldn't talk my brother down. I let him do those things to Mr. Miller. Candy looked at his anguished face. She hadn't been home in days, all to comfort him. Ever since the explosion, Dylan had been withdrawn and depressed, constantly blaming himself for not stopping his brother. She had sent countless expensive gifts to his mansion to try and lift his spirits. But this time, Candy's hand shot out and clamped around his throat. Dylan stared at her, his eyes wide with disbelief. Candy, Did you really try to talk him down? Of course I did, Dylan said, his eyes welling up. You dare lie to my face. Her grip tightened as she gritted her teeth. I spoke to Sonny's therapist. I know everything. You bastard. You didn't try to stop him. You encouraged him. You made him torture Sonny even more. Dylan's breath caught in his throat. The next second, she shoved him away violently. Candy's jaw was tight with rage. Call the police. Hire the best lawyers in the country. I want him to get the maximum possible sentence. No. Dylan grabbed onto her leg. Candy, you can't do this to me. I've been by your side since the day I graduated. Everything I've done, I did it for you to be with you. How can you? She kicked him away. Dylan stared up at her in disbelief as she loomed over him. After all this time, you still don't understand your place. Yes, you helped me out of a tight spot at a business dinner once, right after you graduated. But all you have from me is gratitude, not love. I told you 1,000 times. You could be impulsive, you can act out, but you were never to touch him. Dylan stared at her, utterly shocked. Candy turned her back. Take him away. Ah, a cold laugh echoed behind her. Surprised, Candy turned back around. The man who was usually so meek now wore a look of pure contempt. Fine, I'll go to jail. It doesn't matter. I've already made enough money off you over the years. What did you just say? Candy's brow furrowed. Dylan lifted his chin defiantly. Candy, I was actually planning on having a nice life with you. You were good to me, for the most part. But seeing you today, I realize you're not so special after all. You call me a bastard, but if you had been determined to save your husband from the very beginning, what chance would I have ever had? You? Candy clenched her jaw. Dylan was completely unafraid. For what I did, I'll get 7, maybe 8 years tops. But the money I've siphoned from you over the years already totals in the billions. Candy's hands balled into fists. And what's more, I've already transferred all of it to offshore accounts. You've been wondering where my dear brother Leo disappeared to, haven't you? Dylan grinned. He's been overseas for weeks, managing my new fortune. Bastard. She slapped him hard across the face. A trickle of blood appeared at the corner of Dylan's mouth, but he kept smiling. Get as angry as you want. It doesn't change a thing. You can't touch me, Candy. Not now, not ever. Is that right? Candy laughed, a sound devoid of any humor. She pulled out her phone and answered an incoming call, putting it on speaker. MS. Campbell, the overseas accounts have been frozen. We've also located his brother. He's in our custody now. Dylan's eyes widened in horror. What was it he did to Mr. Miller? Candy asked into the phone, a cruel smile playing on her lips. I want you to do the exact same thing to him. Now. No. Dylan scrambled to her, grabbing her legs. Please, don't do that to my brother. I'm begging you. I'll go to jail. I'll confess to everything. I don't care how long I get. The money, I'll give it all back. Please, if you do that to him, he'll die. So you do know that's enough to kill a man. She grabbed his chin, her grip like iron. Candy's eyes were blazing with pure hatred. Then why did you have your brother do it to him? For the first time, the tears streaming down Dylan's face looked real. She flung him aside. As for prison, she sneered, that would be getting off too easy. What? Dylan looked up, a new terror dawning in his eyes. He heard Candy give a cold, quiet order. Take him to the basement. Handle this according to Campbell family tradition. Candy, Dylan screamed as 2 guards hauled him to his feet. No, Candy, you can't do this to me. I'll die. I'll really die. Let me go. His screams faded as they dragged him away, finally vanishing as the basement door slammed shut. While all of this was unfolding, I was in a new city undergoing therapy. On the very day my therapist told me I was finally recovered, I smelled a familiar, acrid chemical scent. A cloth was pressed over my face from behind. I struggled for a moment before everything went black. I woke up tied to a chair again. This time, however, the person standing in front of me was much more familiar. Don't do anything rash, I said, trying to keep him calm. Whatever you want, any amount of money, I can get it for you. I kept talking until he ripped off his surgical mask. What would I want with your money? Staring at the horribly scarred lower half of his face, I could barely breathe. Dylan? You're Dylan. I stared at him in disbelief. What happened to you? I have you to thank for this, don't I? He snarled, pulling the mask back over his face. He took out his phone and made a call. I heard Candy's voice, cold as ice. What are you planning to do to him? Huh? Candy, are you worried about him? I could hear Candy grit her teeth. Same deal as before, Dylan said. $1 billion. And a helicopter to get me out of the country. I'll provide the pilot. You have 24 hours. Fail to deliver. And, well, Sonny just finished his therapy. I wouldn't mind giving him a relapse of that PTSD. You dare, Candy roared. But Dylan wasn't intimidated. His smile was tragic. Candy, my face is ruined forever. You destroyed my life. I can't start over without that $1 billion. You can't threaten me. I have nothing left to lose. Worst case, I kill myself. But not before I take Sonny Miller with me. Don't. For the first time, Candy sounded truly panicked. $1 billion and the helicopter. You'll have it. Just let me see him. Dylan snorted and turned the phone's camera toward me. I saw her face on the screen, her eyes filled with worry. Sonny, don't be afraid. This time, I swear, I will save you. I turned my head away, silent. Dylan laughed. Look at that, Candy. He won't even look at you. Did you ever imagine this day would come? I saw Candy's eyes turn red. She left him with a final warning. If you so much as scratch him, you won't see a single penny. Then she hung up. While he waited for the ransom, Dylan didn't touch me. Instead, he told me what had happened to him. He'd been locked in the Campbell family basement. The same tortures I had endured were inflicted on him, only worse. The face he had been so proud of was ruined. He was on the verge of a complete mental breakdown. One rainy night, when the guards were distracted, he managed to escape through a window, which led us to this moment. Don't blame me, Sonny, he said, gesturing to his ruined face. I'm only 23. I can't live the rest of my life looking like this. I need a lot of money to start over. I closed my eyes. This was the second time I'd been kidnapped. Strangely, I felt a dead calm inside me. The worst that could happen was death. But this time, Candy moved with incredible speed. The $1 billion actually arrived. Not only that, but a helicopter had landed in a clearing not far away. It's here, Dylan said, looking at his bank account balance, scrambling to his feet in excitement. I watched him run for the door. Then he stopped. He looked me up and down, then picked up a nearby machete. What are you doing? I asked, stunned. He laughed. I'm never coming back to this country. Who's going to stop me if I commit one little murder? Sonny Miller, you're the reason my brother is gone. Today, you're going to pay for it with your life. Dylan, calm down. It was like he couldn't even hear me. He raised the machete high over his head. No, I squeezed my eyes shut. The next sound I heard was a police megaphone. Dylan Hayes, you are surrounded. Drop your weapon and surrender. Damn it. She called the cops. Dylan gritted his teeth. He glanced back at the waiting helicopter, then back at me. He sliced through my ropes with a machete, then grabbed me in a chokehold, pressing the barrel of the gun to my temple. Anyone moves, and I'll kill him right now. The Campbell security team and the police froze. Among the tense crowd, I could see Candy, her jaw clenched in fury. Dylan dragged me toward the helicopter. He sneered over his shoulder. Never thought I'd be the one to outsmart you, did you, Candy? I could see Candy's fists shaking with rage. I dragged my feet, trying to slow him down. I knew that as soon as he was safely in the air, he would kill me. But he seemed to read my mind. He jabbed the gun hard into my temple. Move faster, or I'll kill you right here. I had no choice but to comply. He forced me up the steps and onto the helicopter. Sonny, I heard Candy scream my name, and I saw her snatch a rifle from one of her guards. But she was a fraction of a second too late. Dylan fired, and the bullet hit her square in the chest. My breath hitched. Candy, close the door, Dylan ordered, a triumphant smile on his face. As the helicopter door slid shut, my last shred of hope died. I closed my eyes and sighed. A gunshot rang out. I felt a spray of warm blood across my face. I touched my cheek. It wasn't my blood. I turned in disbelief. Dylan was staring, his eyes wide with shock. He clutched his bleeding neck, stumbled backward, and collapsed. I whipped my head around to look out the door. Down below, Candy was holding the rifle, smoke curling from its barrel. Later, someone asked her if she had been afraid. Afraid she might miss and hit me, or that missing Dylan would have got me killed anyway. She just shook her head. Either I save him, she said, or I die with him. She saved me, but in doing so, she had brought herself to the brink of death. The bullet had passed right by her heart. She was in the ICU for 3 days. Since she had saved my life, I felt obligated to sit by her bedside, When she finally opened her eyes, I was the first person she saw. "Sonny," she whispered. Ignoring the doctor's orders, she pushed through the pain and grabbed my hand. "You came back? Have you been here with me this whole time?" I gently pulled my hand away. "Don't get the wrong idea, Miss Campbell. I just couldn't bring myself to abandon the person who saved my life." Her face fell, but a flicker of hope remained in her eyes. "So, when I'm better, you'll come home with me, right?" I was about to answer when the doctor across the room caught my eye and shook his head slightly. I changed my answer. "You should just focus on getting better for now." I couldn't risk upsetting her by saying no, but I couldn't bring myself to agree. It was a weak compromise, and she knew it. I saw the disappointment in her eyes, but neither of us acknowledged it. We could still maintain a fragile peace between us. I visited when I had time, bringing her food or just sitting with her to talk. This continued until one day, her doctor pulled me aside and told me she had been well enough for discharge for over a week. I confronted her with the medical charts. She just gave me a sad smile. If I hadn't done this, would you have kept visiting me? I was speechless. She knew exactly what she was doing. I set the chart down on her bed. "Since you're fine now, I think this is where we end things. Thank you for saving my life. Sonny." She called, reaching for me, but I was already walking out the door. By the time she got to the hallway, I was gone. Her assistant spoke up. "We'll bring him back, Miss Campbell." "Don't bother," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Miss Campbell, he's never coming back." With that, she turned and walked forlornly back into her empty hospital room. She checked out of the hospital that same day. The last time we saw each other was at the county courthouse to sign the divorce papers. She had allocated 90% of her assets to me in the settlement. I refused to sign. She placed her hand over mine. "Don't misunderstand. This isn't a buyout. Just think of it as compensation. I don't need it. I'm doing fine on my own." She grabbed my arm. "If you don't take this, I'll never be able to live with myself." "Candy, Sonny." She cut me off. "Please, just do this for me." I had never seen her look so utterly helpless. For a moment, I couldn't find any words. She looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed. "Forgive me. Besides money, I have nothing else left to give you." That day, I walked out with the settlement papers in my hand. I don't know what happened to her after that. I never tried to find out. After everything, I had finally achieved what I set out to do. I had my massive fortune, but I had gotten it in a way I never could have imagined. I honestly don't know if I should consider myself lucky or cursed.